the game on the line, you can't fold and you can't bend. Y'all be playing it safe and I be going for the win. Remember back when they was doubting on the kid. Now they tuned in cause my game too legit.
All right, welcome back, you guys. I'm Shawn with Forgiven AF Podcast. Super excited to have you all here. This is a Second Chance podcast. I'm really excited about today's podcast. Kind of like a fanboy over the guy that we got in here. Kyle Dosterchill is someone that I've looked up to for a long time. I've been following his fitness journey and the gym and everything that he does. Real quick before we get into that, though, a couple cool things that I want to share with you guys. This weekend, I'm going to be going to it's called Trace Diaz. It's a 3-day, kind of like a retreat, almost like an encounter weekend to get closer to the Lord and get closer to the Holy Spirit. And it's something I'm really looking forward to. I'm not sure really what to expect, but we'll kind of see what happens. Next week, I'll let you guys know how it goes. The weirdest part, I think, for me is going to be the fact that I don't get to take my phone. And I can't tell you the last time I haven't been around my phone. So that kind of gives me a little bit of anxiety. Also, I have some really huge news that I'm excited to share. I think we found our second location for Second Chance Fitness. It scares the crap out of me. I'm not gonna lie, but I think that with the team that we have together and the support that we have from our community, I think that it's gonna be a blessing. I think that it'll work out really good. So I'm super excited about that. I'll keep you guys updated on how all that goes. You know, we're still in negotiations with the landlord and the lease, so. Any prayers you guys could send our way would be awesome and helpful in that. So here with Kyle, man, like I said, Kyle runs a gym called Hunger in the Wild. I'm actually excited. One of the cool things about this right now is this conversation that we're about to have. I don't know the answers to any of it. This isn't like a planned conversation. We're literally just running this spur of the moment. Towards the end, you'll kind of see what the purpose of this is. Kyle's also in the nonprofit space when it comes to at-risk youth. It's a really cool story. I'm going to let him tell it. But first, real quick, Kyle, first of all, thank you for being here. Can you give us a quick background of who you are and where you're from and kind of
Definitely, yeah. And first of all, thank you for having me. So I grew up I was born in Dallas, Texas. Okay. I lived here until I was 3. Then when my parents split up, I moved to Missouri with my mom. And my dad stayed here. But I ended up growing up on a 3,000-acre farm in northeast Missouri. Yeah, we had 10,000 pigs, and we farmed 3,000 acres. My stepdad owned the farm, and grew up in a small agricultural town in the middle of nowhere. And I think that really kind of laid the foundation for everything. From my stepdad getting up early for hard, go work hard all day, every day in the field, till from dusk to dawn, and it was a really unique place. It was something that I, at the time, didn't really care for, but, as I grew older, I had more appreciation for it. But long story short, I was ready to get out whenever I graduated high school. So I graduated high school and earned a football scholarship to a school in St. Louis. I played Division II linebacker and running back at a school called Lindenwood University, and I played for 2 years. My sophomore year, I ended up switching from linebacker to full-time running back. Worst decision of my life. I hated it. It sounded all flashy and great at first because it was running the football again like I did in high school, scoring touchdowns. But at the end of the day, I like playing linebacker and defense. So whenever I made that switch, I actually was also exposed to Olympic weightlifting. And the school had an Olympic weightlifting team that had multiple Olympians and world championship competitors from all over the world. I was in the gym late at night just working out on my own, kind of tired of football, but training was a part of my life forever. And I saw this guy, big Brazilian guy, snatch 200 kilos in the corner, and the snatch, was one movement overhead from the floor, and it blew my mind, and I'll never forget it. And so then I started watching him over in the corner. I'm trying to teach myself, and it's struggling, but kind of getting it. And he notices me, and we end up having a class together. He asked me, "Hey man, I see you trying to emulate what I'm doing. You help me with my American history homework," because he's Brazilian, he didn't know any of this. "And then I'll teach you how to snatch." And that next day I met him at the gym, and from then on, I quit football the next day, turned in my pads, everything. It was it was during spring ball, so it was totally unexpected. Hard decision, but it was best decision of my life. And from there, I started competing and traveling to Brazil back and forth to train with him and his coach. Because after he finished school, he moved back to Brazil. But like he competed in the 2012 London Olympics, and then also competed in Rio in 2016. And anyway, so he would go to school, he'd go back and train, come to school, go back and train. So I started going with him, and did that for, really up until recently, and continue to train today. But now, own, operate a gym, and starting to do a few other things that are related, and really shifted my focus away from my training and more so onto like coaching others.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And one of the things, so we were introduced from Justin, one of my best friends. And one of the things that I love watching about what you do is the way y'all's type of training is so functional, and it's so like, it's all about form. Like form has to be perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, some of the weights you guys are throwing around over your head is like stuff that I can like barely deadlift. Like, you know what I mean? Like I might look like I'm in shape, but I have no type of like, the way y'all work out it's a whole different animal. It's so explosive. I remember the first time I asked you about it, you were like, no, it's more of like, I forget how you said it. Nervous system, like fast twitch. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which is really cool. I want to go back on something that you said about the farm.
Yeah.
And it's cool hearing someone, because a lot of the kids in our programs that we'll find out, and I know you already found out, don't really have father figures around, right? So it's really cool to hear you explain how you learned about discipline from seeing your stepdad get up and bust his butt every day to work. You know what I mean? Like, like, do you feel like that engraved something in your system?
Entirely. It is, I am who I am because of that. From like, the dude would get up at 3:30, 4 a.m. to go load pigs into the barns, or load them out of the barns. And then he would go get in the field, and he'd be in the field until, late at night. My mom would have to bring him a sandwich because he wouldn't take a break. Then he'd go to the gym at night. He's like 67 years old, still has a six-pack, like a complete just savage of a human being. And also like loving and just an incredible guy. And to grow up with that and like see the way he took care of my mom and my brother and I, who weren't even his, biological kids, left an impression that will last forever. And there's nothing I could have ever asked for that would, replace that. He even coached me in like, when I was in third grade, I was heavy growing up as a kid. I was a little chunky kid, and I always wanted to play running back as like little league. I was over the weight limit. I couldn't carry the football because I weighed 140 pounds, and you had to weigh 135 or something. Anyways, I was in third grade, and he was my coach, and we put together like a little plan to cut 5 pounds, make the weight limit, and I could play running back that year. And so that was third grade. I don't even know how old you are in third grade, but not very old. And I weighed in, I made weight, played running back, like just beasted the whole year. All the other coaches were trying to get me to re-weigh because they're like, there's no way he's under the limit. And my stepdad's like, that's not the way it works. Like, he already weighed, leave it alone. And I could think of so many different times where he's been really influential for sure.
Man, I love that. It literally gave me chills when you were talking, because I feel like our world is getting away from how important it is to have father figures. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, single mothers can raise great kids. I've seen it.
Yeah.
But it's not the same as like, how do you know how to become a man or to become a father or to become a husband if you've never seen it modeled? Like, I guarantee the way that you saw this man treat your mom definitely is going to play into the way that you treat your girlfriend. You know what I mean?
Already does.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's so awesome. Like, I think that's huge. So the next thing was when your gym, right?
Yeah.
Hunger in the Wild. How'd you come up with the name for that?
Man, it's been a part of my life for so long. And it's really like, when I was growing up, I have an older brother who's 4 years older than me, and we're very different. He's very intellectual, and like, he was, as a freshman in high school, I think he bright flighted to college, so he scored like a 34 on his ACT. I think you guys take the SAT up here, but it's like almost perfect. And just like, genius type guy, and never worked hard at anything. Got in trouble a lot, had no focus. And I was the opposite. Like, I was always really focused, determined, knew exactly what I wanted, would go get it. And at a certain point, he asked me, like, what's your deal? Like, I was in maybe 7th grade, getting up at 5 a.m. to go work out before middle school. And he would drop me off in the morning on his way to school, or my mom would take me early or whatever. And it's just how I always operated. And at one point he asked me, like, what are you doing? Like, what are you trying to do? Why are you working so hard at everything that you do? And I couldn't explain it. I just said, I feel like there's like I'm hungry. I want something. I just don't know what it is. And at the time it was like, he wrote a poem basically, and it's called The Warrior's Prayer. And it's about like the will that it takes to survive in the wild. Like a wolf, for example, if a wolf's in the wild and it's literally going to die of starvation, you're going to kill, whatever, or try to kill or be killed to survive. And it's kind of the way I've lived my entire life. Like, I mean, approach to everything. It's like a deep desire to, and hunger for more, and like more opportunity, more growth, more, provide more value, more of everything, but in a way that's like very, it's human behavior, but we've kind of lost it. And the way I think about like fitness, it's like the wild, wild west kind of. You and I were talking about this a minute ago. Like, there's all this nonsense out there, and it's everywhere. And to really stay, true and focused on what is, not what's right, but what works, and then find the results that way. I mean, you'll be hungry for more and more and more. And so it's like, the other day with Ken Derrick, the young man we were talking about, I said something to him because he was he could have been given more effort and it wasn't there. I just said, man, you lost your hunger. And like, here, that's not going to work. Are you hungry? And he's like, yes, sir. I'm like, then show me, like, go eat, like go kill whatever you got to do. You got to eat. And so it means a lot of things, but to me, it really means it's like a deep desire to improve and grow.
I love it. It reminds me of going back to like more like the caveman days.
Exactly, yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, you couldn't be this soft, weak man like back in the caveman days. Like, you had to get up every day, find what you were going to eat, feed your family because you were the sole provider. So you were like hungry in the wild. Like, you have a hunger that's like, and I feel like as a society we're losing that.
It's gone.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, even me, like, I've gotten too comfortable and complacent, and sometimes I just go. I'm like sometimes Derrick. Sometimes I'm just going through the motions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The discipline is there, but I don't have that drive, and it's. Sometimes you need to find that.
Got to and keep it close.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
And whenever I created the business and was looking for a name or trying to think of a name for the gym, it was hard. I mean, I'm sure you can relate. Like, it was difficult, and I had a lot of pressure on myself, but it just kept coming back. It's like Hunger in the Wild. And I told a couple people, and they're like, man, nobody's gonna remember that. They're not gonna know what it means. Like, don't do that. I'm like, all right. I kept thinking. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do this. If it doesn't work, I'll change it and do something else. And I did it, and when I did it, there was intention that it's like, if this is the name, it's going to be everywhere, and if it's everywhere, then it's going to be a constant reminder to me to stay hungry. Stay hungry. Yeah, and that's really what it is. Like, every time I see the logo or the emblem, or I walk in the gym, or I see somebody from the gym, the first thing that pops up into my mind is like, I'm hungry.
Oh, that's cool. Do you use that too, like with your members and stuff? Do you use that, like the wording, sure. And like, hey, you staying hungry? Stay hungry.
For sure, always. Yeah, I mean, hungry AF. All of it. It's it's definitely a meaningful thing, a powerful thing, and the hunger means different things to different people. But at the end of the day, the definition is, it's like starvation type, And so to live your life that way is a powerful thing, and you'll do things that you wouldn't do otherwise.
No, for sure. Like, if you're hungry, you're willing to do more. Like, if someone's starving, they're going to get it done. And I definitely think that we've gotten away from that.
Yeah.
So that's cool. I love it. I think it's an awesome name. I think it's catchy. I would never tell you not to, because I think it's like different. You know what I mean? It's like Second Chance Fitness is kind of hard to explain to someone else because it's about me. It's more about my journey with like going from drug addiction and drug selling to pushing fitness and, you know what I mean, and a lifestyle change. But it also can mean people, like women especially, like, going through a divorce or just a second chance at having some discipline and confidence in themselves. Like a second chance.
Everybody needs a second chance.
Yeah. So it's like, it kind of works for fitness also.
No, it totally works. I love it. I think it's great. And like you can tell it kind of packs a punch. Like Hunger in the Wild, people hear it, They want to know what it is.
Yeah.
You hear Second Chance Fitness and you want to know what it is.
Yeah, like, what does it come from?
Exactly.
What would you say, and I like this question. This is just a question for me. It's not even like a podcast question, but what would you say was your biggest obstacle in starting or owning a gym? I know that question can go on forever, but
Tough.
if you had to think of, because people don't understand, the gym business is not as glamorous as it looks. Like, it's really not. There's not a ton of money, believe it or not. There's not a ton of money. I mean, you can become successful, but you're not sitting around just like getting rich sitting on your butt. Like, there's a lot of work and you have to continue pushing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, before I answer the question for you, what would you say?
Say the question one more time.
What would you say is like, what was your like biggest obstacle in like starting the gym and getting the gym going and like?
Yeah. So for me, it was not necessarily planned even. I had moved from St. Louis to Dallas, and I was here for about 6 months working at a gym in downtown Dallas. And long story short, they hired a consultant to come in and like change some things, and it was not going well. And I could see that it was falling apart. So I was, just noticing it and not backing out, but being prepared for whatever was coming next. I'd started an Olympic weightlifting program at this gym that they didn't have before, brought my own equipment for them to use, and not saying I, did a whole lot for them and they didn't do anything for me. I mean, it was mutual, but I lent them my equipment to use. I started this program, built it up, and they started telling me that I was taking up too much room in their gym, so I had to make it smaller. And I'm like, you told me to build this program, I'm building it. And then it was like, again, okay, it's too many people, you need to make it smaller. So at the end of the day, I knew what they were trying to do. They were inching me out, and I cut ties. I said, hey, I'm gonna head out and leave. I'm gonna take my equipment. I'm not gonna take any clients. I was training an All-American discus thrower from Arizona State University at the time. His name was Michael Hawkway. It's like 6'4", had like a 7-foot wingspan, like incredible athlete. And he was trying to qualify for the Olympics and was using Olympic weightlifting training to improve his throwing. And he wanted to train with me. He was there because of me. And I told them, like, I'm taking him with me, but I'm not taking anybody else. So let's, we good here? They, it wasn't that easy, but at the end of the day, I left. We went around Dallas, like, that day trying to find somewhere to train. And I wasn't even looking for a gym. I was just looking for somewhere I could train him. Like, I wasn't looking for my own training. I just knew he needed to train. I had weights. I was willing to, put him in my Jeep, take him wherever. Nobody was really cool with that. They were like, maybe concerned I was trying to come in and start a gym or take over theirs or whatever. And so I think initially, like, the biggest obstacle was I didn't have anywhere to go, and I didn't have any money to do anything, to buy anything, to rent anything. I didn't even have a business at the time. And so it was like there were a ton of challenges, but the biggest one was just the lack of available space. And so I found a gym called CrossFit Heat that I had heard in the past had an Olympic weightlifting program in their basement. The guy who was running it left and started his own gym or something somewhere else. So we go there and just train for the day. And the owner's like, okay, cool. It was during the afternoon. CrossFit gym was closed, but they let us in, opened it up. Like, all right, cool. We're going to head back to work because they had another job. You guys good? Like, yeah, we're good. That's cool. I didn't say it out loud, but I'm thinking, like, you trust me. That's really cool. I appreciate that. Like, everything's going to be good. We just here to train. That's it. And they leave, and we're training. And I was looking for the bathroom, couldn't find it, and saw opened a door. It was a downstairs. So I wandered downstairs, and it's just like this vacant space that was like abandoned. There's like wrist straps hanging from the ceiling, trash everywhere. You could tell it had been flooded. There were a few Olympic weightlifting platforms, but they were like all flooded and just nasty. But to me, I saw it and I was like, oh man, this is it. Like, these people are cool. They left me here. They're not worried about it. They probably need some extra money. I'll rent the space. I'll build my program. And so that same day I left, went home, typed up a lease. Like, I didn't know what I was doing, but typed up a profit share agreement and a lease to lease that space. Came back that night when I knew they were coaching, and proposed it to them, signed it, and moved my stuff in the next day, and then started the program. And so from there, it was like there were challenges, still are today, over and over and over again. But the lack of available space was the first, and then from there it was in the basement. Like, there were no If I told you, hey man, come work out with me today, and I tell you where it is, I could even give you the address. You'd show up, it would say CrossFit Heat. It wouldn't say Hunger in the Wild. You go inside, look around, you're not gonna see anything but CrossFit Heat. It was downstairs around the corner, like 800 square feet, nasty little area. But it was, I mean, so that's how it all started. And from there, like, you know, just built it from the ground up, like total grassroots. I mean, I started with 2 days a week training, or 2 days a week classes, and then outgrew that, had to add 3, then outgrew that, had to add 4, 5, 6. And there were, I mean, I would just be there all day, like training, coaching clients, training, coaching clients. People would be, you know, they come downstairs, and it wasn't a pretty place, you know, it was not at all. It was in a bad area too. And there was a lot of intimidation, but I think the biggest thing for me was like these people would come to the gym, they would find it. Well, first of all, if you were going to come visit, then I would tell you to let me know when you get there, and I'll come meet you in the parking lot, because otherwise you would not find it. Then they come downstairs and they see me, and you know, probably initially there's some sort of intimidation, or like, you know, he's in good shape or he's strong, whatever. But I'm like, cool dude. I'm just, you know, I'm like, I'm the same as you. Meet you right where you are. No big deal. And women, men, children, like it didn't matter. And so we started to accumulate, like, it went from me and then this all-American discus thrower to, I mean, young to kids. I've trained like a couple seventh grade or volleyball girls. We had a 75-year-old, you know, woman client, just all kinds of everybody. And it really created a unique place. And then from then, I mean, it took me, I told everybody I'd be there for like a year until I saved enough money to, you know, sign my own lease and move out. It took me 3 years, but we ended up getting out. It just was a long, crazy ride.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's a cool story. I had no idea about any of that either.
Yeah.
Now, to jump subjects, the main reason I brought you in today, is because you told me about a program that you're starting that I think is like the freaking coolest thing in the world. Like, you know that I'm big in the nonprofit space. Like, that's something that it's my passion, really. Like, that's what I love. Even more than fitness is like building confidence and discipline in like these at-risk youth that we work with. And when you told me what you were doing, I had been following you and I had seen this kid, but I hadn't known like the concept of what you were doing. And I think it's freaking awesome. I even told someone I was bringing you on today, and they were like, well, why would you bring another nonprofit onto your nonprofit? Because there's kids, like, there's so many kids that need help.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
it's really about helping kids than it is about just like building my nonprofit.
Yeah.
So you started a nonprofit called Uplift Dallas, right? Will you share us like kind of how you got into that?
Absolutely. Yeah. When I was in St. Louis, that's where I went to college, and I stayed there for about 6 years total. It's a bad, you know, East St. Louis is bad, and it's like a war zone. I mean, it's really bad. And the gym that I worked at, who, you know, I mean, he was one of my best friends, the owner of it, taught me, you know, weightlifting. Long story short, they were the center for a nonprofit called Lift for Life Academy. And what the whole thing was, like, they would provide a safe place for kids to come and study after school, to come and, you know, work out if they wanted to. There was a basketball court. It was like a safe place. They would come there, they would want to leave. Like, we'd give them snacks and stuff. But some of them like really took to weightlifting, and they went from being, I mean, some of these kids, whenever they first started, we'd have to go find them because like they weren't at school, they weren't at home, we had no idea. So we'd be driving around. Hey, Jerome, get over here. What are you doing? Like, get in the car. We'd take them back to the gym, and unbelievable athlete, you know, like there were several of them, but they just had they didn't know what was really going on or what the opportunity that they, you know, could come about from this. And so, like, you know, showing them, teaching them, and leading them, I did that for like 4 years at a pretty deep level with them, like traveled with them to competitions, and it just changed my life to see these troubled kids who, I mean, there were a couple winters where we found out that a couple of them didn't have any heat, and St. Louis is cold. I mean, it's really cold, and just like awful stuff. And so to provide something, you know, to them that gave them opportunity they never would have had, and, you know, it was the barbell really is what we were doing. And for me, the barbells changed my life like entirely, and to see it also change theirs again changed my life entirely. So when I moved, I knew I wanted to do something like that. I didn't know really exactly what or how. And I started when I first moved to Dallas. There's a school called Uplift Luna Academy, and it's in like Deep Elm. I just volunteered. I said, hey, do you guys need any volunteers for like health and fitness or mentorship or whatever? And so I would go out there like two times a week for about a year and basically coach PE. And they let me teach the Olympic lifts. And these kids loved it. And so from there, there was some more exposure going on. And I started to realize like I could do something like this at my own gym and have a bigger effect and bigger impact. And so long story short, Mario Beltran is like my assistant coach. So I'm my best friend and more like a partner than he is an assistant. But I've been telling him for a while, like, man, I got this idea. I want to start this nonprofit, build a team, and help some of these kids out. And he's like, I'm with you, bro. Whatever you want to do, I got your back. And so he ends up calling me one day, and he's like, man, you know that nonprofit you've been talking about? Your first, because it was like a scholarship program. Your first scholarship athlete just walked through the door. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, this kid's big. He like bigger than you big. And I'm like, bro, come on, man. Like, how old is he? He's like 17. I'm like, there's no, I didn't say there's no way, but I'm thinking like, are you for real? And he's like, man, I'm telling you, absolutely. And so Mario told this kid to send me an email, and I would email him back and give him like instructions on, because let me back up a second. Whenever he came, so his name's Kenderick McMillian, and he showed up at the gym one day, took a 2-hour bus ride to the gym. He sent us an Instagram. I actually pulled it up last night, a DM that said, I'd like to compete in Olympic weightlifting. I'm wondering if you could help me out. And my wife, who was running the Instagram account, said, like, the best thing for you to do would be to come in and talk to us. And yes, we can help you. The next day he shows up and talks to Mario, gets the pricing and everything. Didn't say like, I can't afford it or, anything. He just said, okay, I'm going to work on it. Mario said, hold on, man, let me get your info. So Mario gets his info, calls me, gives it to me. Before I even had a chance to email him, he had already emailed me and was basically just asking, I want to learn Olympic weightlifting and compete. Can you help me? And I sent him an application, said, fill this out, in full, like in detail. Don't shorthand me, like give me everything and bring it back in person and we'll talk. Next day, shows up, not typed out, handwritten, like old school. He wrote as much as he possibly could. And the kid, the first time I met him, it was obvious that was the beginning of what I've been wanting to do. And I think, what was the question exactly? I got off.
No, dude, this story's awesome. You didn't get off at all. Okay. Like, you're going exactly what I wanted. Like, you're going into, so the kid, that was a question, was tell me about Uplift Dallas, like your program. But I want to keep hearing about this kid because
he really is. He is Uplift Dallas. Like,
yeah.
Even to the point where we were working on like the name and the logo and the colors and everything. And I had told him like, man, I want to do this for me, but like, I also want to do it for you and everybody else who will be a part of it. And I'd really like for you to be the face of it.
That's awesome.
I want it to be about you. Because that's how much I believe in this kid. And I was like, what's the logo going to be? What do you think? And he's like, man, I don't know. Like, how am I supposed to know that? I'm like, bro, just tell me some things, name some things. So he made like a mood board. I had to make a mood board and put some colors together. And you could tell he had never done anything like that before, but the colors are like purple and gold because he's from New Orleans. And I was asking him about the logo, and he just kept sending pictures of me doing like a split jerk. And I'm like, man, I don't want it to be about me. Like, that's not the intention. And he's like, yeah, but you told me I could basically design it, and this is what I want. So like, let's do a silhouette of you doing a split jerk, and that'll be the logo. And I'm like, all right. I told you, you pick it out, so let's do it. And so we did put it together, worked together quite a bit on it, and formed the nonprofit. He didn't have a car, and that was like the biggest thing. Was he was taking the bus was like an hour and a half to 2 hours. Well, first of all, last night I learned this. He had to take a bus to a train to a bus to get to the gym. I didn't know that. I thought it was just a bus, which, not to say that's not, an obstacle, but he was taking multiple different transportations just to get to the gym. And it was taking like 2 hours there and 2 hours back. And I found that out and just said, we got to change this, man. Like I respect you a lot for doing this, but it's eating up everything. You got no time left and you're dead tired because you're getting home at like midnight. So we did a fundraiser. I told him, I said, we're going to get you a car. I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to give it to you. Even if I would like to, but I wouldn't, because that's not what I'm trying to do here. I want to, help you and teach you values and everything. And we did a fundraiser, and man, the people from the gym who had seen him like in their training and like all this talent and potential, people just fall in love with him. And we raised the money. I taught him how to drive. He had never drove before. Like, bro, we had to line up my trash cans in the front of my house, like in the street, to do parallel parking. And it just like an experience. It'd be like late at night because, after work or whatever, after training, we go spend 30 minutes trying to do it. And I mean, just stuff I'll never forget. Or like the first time I let him drive my car and I was riding in the passenger seat, just like, oh, shit. Like, we might die. Like, go slow, please. And I mean, just all kinds of crazy stuff. Took him, I think, 3 times to pass his driver's test. My girl took him twice, and I took him the last time, and he passed. And like, he came out of the license office. Man, I've never seen such a big smile like my entire life. And he drove home that day from the license office. And I mean, from there, his first plane ride, like he's qualified for multiple national events and in Olympic weightlifting. And the first time he was on a plane, look, big boy. I mean, he's big. He's bigger than me. He's like 200 and I say he's 250, but he really weighs like 220 or so. But he just looks massive, and he's in the little plane seat, and he's like, when they're taking off, like terrified. And I'm like, buddy, it's okay, bro. Like, this is just how it is. But he had never experienced anything like that. Never been on a plane, and I mean, there's a long list of things that he's been able to do because of what he's like, the work and the effort that he's put in. And I mean, it's just amazing. And before that, even like, the kid he probably would have played Division I football, but his freshman year he was diagnosed with a rare blood disorder. He had blood clots in his legs. They told him, like, you're done with sports. This is, I don't remember the name. I think they were DVT blood clots, but they told him, like, this is it. Anyways, he overcame those, and his sophomore year he was working out with the football team, although he wasn't really supposed to be, and suited up. They were practicing. He couldn't breathe. And he just said, I couldn't breathe. Like, it hurt really bad in my chest. I couldn't breathe. But mom told me I just need to get in shape. And he was like, and I thought the same thing. Like, I just was out of shape. And so I'm trying to get in shape, but I couldn't breathe. And ends up passing out. Then he thought it was from dehydration. Suits up the next day, goes to practice. Same thing, can't breathe. A lot of pain in his chest. They end up going to the emergency room. He got blood clots in his lungs.
Oh, man.
And was in the hospital for 7 days, couldn't eat or drink couldn't eat anything for 7 days, couldn't walk for 7 days. And it went from like 210 pounds down to like 160 pounds. And they told him, like, they didn't say you're going to die, but that was something that was, fighting for his life. And they said, like, you're done playing sports, contact sports, lifting weights. This is all, finished. And I mean, I can't even imagine how that felt. But he told me when the first day he went home after the 7th day, so I guess on day 8, first place he went after he went home was to the gym. Wasn't supposed to, but he did it. And I was like, what'd you do? And he said, man, I tried not to do much. I just did a little bit of bench press, like just make sure I could still do it. And it's like, what was what were you thinking whenever you went? He's like, I was getting in shape for football. He was like, I wasn't done. They might tell me that, but this isn't how my story ends. And man, you're a different.
That's a different breed.
It is, bro. And I could go on and on and on, but he's a rare individual, and the talent that he possesses is mind blowing.
So as far as like growth in the program, he's the one kid in the program right now?
We have a few, but he's like he's
like the main figure of it.
For sure. And he's the one who's like really drawn other people to it.
That's normally how it happens.
Yeah.
Like the same thing with our nonprofit. We got a couple kids in the beginning, and then from them, some of his friends have wanted to come and be part of it also. What is your vision, like, let's say 5 years from now? What do you see in 5 years from now?
Yeah, man, I think, starting with him specifically, like, he has the potential to, like, be an Olympian or be, like, compete at the World Championships. It'll take maybe 8 years from now, but so 5 years, positioning there, I would say competing at the international level. And I think whenever he does that, at that level, there's enough publicity and like attention that the program, naturally will grow because of that. And, some of these other kids will see the opportunity. It's already happened where people have came in, they've said, hey, I see this on Instagram. Like, this guy's going and traveling and lifting weights. Like, I want to do that. I'm like, that's what we do, man.
Yeah. So what about like the kids that want to do some in this program, at-risk youth that don't have the same situation, but that might not make it to that level of a train. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And it's like, I think having somebody at the front who's leading like that and giving other people hope is really important. But, more importantly, like you don't have to be a talented athlete at all. You have to maintain a GPA. You have to have good grades.
I love that.
Yeah, you have to be. We have them sign like a contract agreement whenever they come, and you have to act a certain way. If you don't, then you're not going to be in the program. But we have a couple kids who are. One specifically, he came in he had lifted weights a little bit in the past, powerlifting background, brand new to weightlifting, was not super talented, but here we are like 3 years later. And the other day I told him, like, man, you have surpassed every expectation I ever had of what you'd be capable of. And, I'm proud of you.
It probably blew his mind.
It did. Absolutely. And it's true. And I think with, a lot of people, like, natural talent is one thing, but, having the will to train and like day after day and really adhere to the advice and program that somebody's like giving you, somebody who's done it and like can, really show you what to do, how to do it, give you the map.
Like your stepdad did for you, kind of?
Basically, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's what I keep going
sure.
back to. I keep picturing the impact of your stepfather and the way that he, showed you how to live life. Now is you being able to pour back into these kids the same discipline. I mean, you're one of the most disciplined people I know. You don't look like that and do what you do without having discipline. You know what I mean? Like, I know you work hard.
For sure.
So I feel like just the boys coming into your program and able to see the way that you carry yourself will wear off on them.
He texted me that bottom message. So he hadn't really even, that's my stepdad texted me. He didn't really know about the nonprofit. I hadn't really told anybody yet until a couple of days ago. I told my mom, like, send her the website and everything. And I wasn't keeping it secret. I just wanted it to be ready to present before I really like started showing people. Anyways, my mom told him, and he sends me that message and, says, proud of you for caring about other people. And he never told me like, hey, this is how you do it, or watch me do this. This is how you need to do these things. He just did.
He was just an example. It was just an example.
Exactly.
And that's so awesome, because a lot of times you hear people say, hey, do this, do that, do this, but they don't live by that.
No.
You want to teach someone something, show them by the way you live and act.
Absolutely.
Man, I think that's so freaking awesome. Something that I want to, real quick, and before we sign off on this, it's really important to me that all my listeners or our listeners know how they can find Uplift Dallas, how they can support Uplift Dallas. I mean, we have a lot of listeners that,
for sure,
are all about what you do. Can you kind of give us information on even how to find yourself personally, the Uplift Dallas? Just pretty much give us a plug for all the stuff you have going on.
Definitely. So the uplift-dallas.org is the website. And through there, you can, find out more information about me, about Kenderick, about the program, about the youth athletes that we have. You can also donate. We have, for example, in December, we're going to Atlanta, Georgia. We're taking 3 athletes and trying to raise money for that right now, for travel and hotel and all training, related expenses. And we have a Uplift Dallas Academy is the Instagram. Same thing for TikTok. And then my for-profit business, the gym, is hungerinthewild.com. The Instagram is Hunger in the Wild. And then mine personally is a long one. But if you type in KYLE, Kyle, DOS, it should pop up. Kyle Dosterchill is my Instagram handle.
Cool.
Yeah.
Man, I really want to thank you for this.
For sure.
Like, I know it might not seem, I know I just sprung this on you last minute too, and we weren't really prepared, and that's why I didn't know the answers to any of these questions. The stories were awesome. Like, sharing with you about, your stepdad really hit me hard.
Yeah.
And I just love that your passion for helping these kids, because trust me, like, God's going to reward you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know that there's not a lot of money in the nonprofit space. It's not like, we're doing this to pay ourselves. So if we have any listeners out there that can any way help support these boys, especially so they can get to Atlanta for that, please do so. We will definitely, as our mentorship, we would like to donate. So, cause we've been blessed, with a lot of opportunity for people pouring into these kids. And it's just, if you want, we can sit around and criticize these kids, these at-risk kids that are doing things but if we're not trying to get our hands dirty and help, then we should probably just stay out of the way. You know what I mean? You hear a lot of criticizing and a lot of help out. I mean, that's where it's at. So thank you, bro, very much for being here. Yeah. It means a lot. You did an awesome job. I love the way you carry yourself. You're an awesome person, man. I'm really proud to know you. But that's really it. I just want to let our listeners remember that you're loved and you're forgiven and there's nothing you can do about it. So I guess that's it. Peace, y'all. We'll see you next week.